Welcome to Baptist for Liberty. I'm your host, Joanna Works.
And Andrew Sullivan.
All right, so last weekend I was all by my lonesome and probably bored people to tears just reading through some news stories and commenting. But now we have Andrew back with us. Yay! And he finally went to that conference he's been wanting to go to. He's been talking about for, 8 weeks. 8 weeks
I can't
before he
believe
finally
it's
left.
that long that I've been talking about it.
Yeah. But that's kind of cool.
Oh.
So now we get to dedicate almost the whole show to the Bible conference and talking about family.
Oh boy. Yeah, that is what the conference was all about, was a focus on the family. So I have the handout in front of me here.
Okay.
And it has the purpose on it, and I'm going to read that.
Okay.
It says, the members of the New Testament Baptist Church believes that strong homes build strong church bodies, which in turn can be used mightily by the Lord in mission work. This conference is our prayerful effort to strengthen the foundational beliefs of the family, encourage personal and church mission work, and utilize all the resources available in these last days to spread the gospel of Christ.
That's a lot for one mission.
I know.
But it is very foundational.
Yeah. We had 6 speakers, and the first one was Brother Chris Page from Julian Baptist Church in Gracie, Kentucky, and he was preaching on having and raising children and how the foundation of a family is very important to have for in the long run with children. And it's true. They just kind of focus that a child's foundational beliefs and how they are raised affects them well into adulthood.
Mm-hmm. And you wrote your blog post after your trip focused a lot on that.
I did. Brother Page is one of my favorites. I know I shouldn't have favorites, but they were all good. But this one was one of the most convicting for me.
Yeah, it sounded like it was the most personal to you.
Right. Because he said that we need a strong foundation of a family, both a mother and a father. And that was kind of hit home for me because I was raised by a single mother since the age of a year and a half. And we moved in with my grandparents and had really no foundation with my dad. I mean, yeah, I saw him every once in a while, but he was never one to give rules or correct when I was wrong. He tried to be the best friend, and I really didn't have any discipline from him. I got it all from my mom. And what was profound to me was that Brother Page talked about that if we don't have a strong foundation, it will fall apart. And that's why we have so many things going on with children or even like young adults today doing ungodly and unbiblical things. And it was just very convicting for me because I wasn't raised in a Baptist church. I was raised in a non-denominational church. not having been raised um, most most kids do, like with the church, like praying before meals and talking about the Bible daily and being able to talk with parents about certain things. And that was not the upbringing I had. Yeah, we prayed at meals before dinner, and that was about it. I mean, I asked my grandmother if we can do Bible studies one day, and she kind of just didn't kind of change the subject or is just not welcoming to that. But this just kind of opened my eyes to see that I know the truth now, and I may have not been had a strong foundation, but I guess the foundation was strong enough to the point where I do know the truth.
Right. And for anybody else, listening who come from broken homes, our foundation is in Jesus Christ. And even if you weren't blessed with both of your parents, if you had a troubled family or upbringing, if you're the Lord's and you're saved, we can still build on that foundation from the point of our salvation. And I understand that what you were raised with is going to carry through and affect you, and it might be more of a struggle, but there's still hope and there's still grace and mercy with the Lord that we can continue to build on.
Oh, absolutely. I was raised going to church, so I had some foundation. It wasn't like I was foundationless.
Right. I'm just saying, we never know who's listening. We might have somebody who didn't even have that much to work with.
That's true.
So I'm just saying, for anybody listening, we recognize that the Lord, He's there. He's that solid rock. And especially if you're saved and you come to church truth and you go to His church is built on that solid rock as well. And that will help tremendously in moving forward and giving you future support to continue building your life on.
Yeah, that is very true. Because the Lord is all powerful and all sovereign, He can change anything. He can change situations, He can change whatever, and it's all at His hands.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any more thoughts on Brother Page's sermon?
I thought, did you get a chance to listen to it at all, or no?
I listened to his sermon. Unfortunately, I was interrupted quite a few times. So I need to re-listen to it again because I had to listen to part of it, stop it, rewind it a little bit, and listen to it again. And I think I actually had it play through twice completely, but I was working, so there was a lot of interruptions. And I kept checking back to see if the other sermons had been posted, and I haven't seen them posted.
I haven't either.
So unless they... Okay, so I didn't know if maybe they posted them in the last, this evening or afternoon, because I didn't look for it today.
I haven't seen them today. But the church Facebook group says that they're going to post them. So, hope, Lord willing, they will be.
And I understand, I'm do some of the tech stuff for the church I'm a member of, and sometimes you get behind, and especially at conference when you have so many sermons that you need to take care of.
Oh my,
it
yeah.
Gets a little time consuming.
Oh yeah, we we kept having to do like mic checks after every single preacher just to make sure that it was recording.
Oh, good. Well, at least they did that and they checked it. It's been really bad if they had recorded or started preaching and it didn't record at all.
Yeah, that's what they were afraid of. So they made sure that they told like each preacher to give an introduction to make sure that it's all recording.
Okay, that's good. All right, and so what was the next preacher in his sermon?
The next preacher was Brother Randy Titus from Wauseon, Ohio. And this kind of goes with the theme for May and June. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, making sure. And he was talking about the role of women. And he was giving how Christ is the head of the church, the man is the head of the household, or the family rather, and then like the woman has her domain, which is the house and the kids. And he was saying that in order to have a strong family, that order is important. In that, because a woman is quote unquote beneath the man, her position is not belittled. It's still a very important part of the family unit.
Right.
I mean, some people would think that because we believe in this order or the hierarchy or whatever you would like to call it, women are supposed to be submissive and this kind of lower than the man, which isn't true.
Right, and we've discussed this a little bit before, but it bears repeating that, and this is one of the key things about word order and how it works, whether you're thinking about the Godhead, Jesus Christ was always speaking in reverence to God the Father and talking about his will being submitted to the will of the Father. And he constantly reiterates that throughout his ministry. And even the Holy Spirit doesn't speak of itself, it doesn't boast of itself, but it points people to Christ. So there's an order there. Or you can think of it even in the chain of command in the military. There's a certain order. You don't just have all generals. There's a chain of command, and some people might treat him by below the general with less respect, but it's not that they don't think for themselves at all. They still have their own responsibilities, their own duties, but they do answer to the next person above them. And no matter who you are, man or woman, you're going to find yourself in some kind of a chain of command. You're going to find somebody below you and somebody above you. We mentioned this Wednesday night at my church, Liberty Missionary Baptist Church in Burton, Michigan. We were studying through Ecclesiastes, and we were reading chapter 10. And one of the points that my pastor, also my father, Brother Timothy Works, brought out was no matter who you are, whether you're man or woman, you find yourself, there's people who are in authority over you, and there's people below you. And Solomon, he wrote Ecclesiastes, and he's talking about authority, and he's giving instructions, and he's seeing things as a king. So here he is, head of Israel, and at Israel's peak and power, and he's wise and everything, and even he is underneath God. God is still over him, and he still witnesses, his servants or the ministers that serve just below him, there's different positions, and you still have to answer to somebody. And no matter how high you are, you still need to treat those below you with respect.
Right.
And I think, men and women, the relationship, so easy to twist that in either direction. The subservient and twisting the meaning of submission, or you have the feminist movement who claim that they want equality, but sometimes they take that to the opposite, and what they really want is a matriarchy versus a patriarchy. And we have to be careful and read our scriptures and understand there's balance and there's grace and there's a purpose. And like you were talking about in the family, there's a purpose for the woman's role. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, nowadays I feel like a lot of churches, more like the modern churches, I guess, are trying to get away from the patriarchy movement and to promote equality. Well, we are, I can see some good things in that, but the Bible is very clear, and the Lord is clear what the order is supposed to be, and in trying to like equalize everything, it's like trying to take away from like the other side and try to like, what is it, like check the thing from like, what is it, checks and balances or whatever.
Right.
And
Well, yeah, because if you're trying to make everything equal, that means you're taking away from the one who has more authority or power to give it to the other person to try to balance it out. And the authority and responsibility is drawn out in a way by the Lord, for a reason.
right.
There's a purpose for it. So trying to make everybody equal is not really a good thing. And in the realm of politics and was it the Declaration of Independence that holds these evidence to be true or something? I can't remember the exact. I should know this, but my mind's going blank. But it says, that all men are created equal. And it's true that we're equal in we're all sinners, we all have human nature, but we don't have all the exact same gifts, all the exact same callings. We're not clones, we're not made from a mold, we're all individuals. So we're not going to be equally gifted. We're not going to be called to do the exact same things. And if you can understand, musician is not going to be a ballet dancer, or not everybody is going to be a deacon or a pastor or a Sunday school teacher in the church. We're all gifted to do different things to help and edify one another, and that's true in the family too. The man is gifted and called with certain authority and responsibilities in the home for leadership and to protect the family. And the wife, the woman, the mother, she has her gifts that she's given to take care of her family. And even in the particulars, God knows. He puts them together and gives the children that they're going to have, and he knows it, and he gives them the grace and the talents that they're going to need for those individual children.
Absolutely.
So just made me think, as I was talking, I was thinking about, we have very general, broad gifts or positions, but then the Lord takes it even more personal because he knows each of us, and he knows each of the situations that he's going to give us and what we need for that.
That's true. He knows everything. He's all knowing, all powerful. He knows things before we even do.
Oh, yeah. I mean, before the foundations of the earth, I mean, he knew his elect. So, and it's really mind-boggling to me to try to comprehend that eternity, the time before time existed, and him knowing and purposing all the details of history.
That'll just give you a headache.
I mean,
Trying to
yeah, I
figure
mean,
out all of that.
I love history and reading and studying that, and then when you think that God already knew that, all the details, all the things that we don't know or we think we know, but we're probably wrong on, but he knows it. And he even knows the mistakes and falsehoods that we believe.
Yep. Oh, it's amazing. That's all I can say is that it's amazing.
Alright, and so the third speaker.
The third speaker was Mark Clark Sr. from Cadillac Baptist Church in Cadillac, Michigan. He is not the pastor there, but he is a preacher from their church.
Right.
And while Brother Titus was talking about the role of the woman, he was talking about the role of the man and how men are supposed to be the leaders of the home and to protect the family and like be the head of the church and all of that.
I think it's interesting that they reversed the order. Normally at conferences or anything dealing with the family, they do with the role of the man and then the woman. But in this one, they did the role of the woman and then the man. Did you think that order complemented one another really well?
I think it did. Yeah, it. Brother Lafferty of New Testament Baptist Church in Dover was the one that put this all together, and he sent out. He had each preacher talk about a certain topic.
So he assigned topics.
And I think that he did a good job in the order. And maybe he decided to talk about women because men are always talked about first. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's kind of interesting, and it's always interesting how the Lord leads in that, in who talks about what subject in the order. And I know Brother Lafferty probably spent a lot of time in prayer in not just choosing who speakers to be, but what they should speak about and order. I mean, that's a lot of things to pray about, especially when you know you have to assign all that. It's like, Lord, help me get this the way you want it to be.
Right, because talking about the family is a very big topic. And there's different components to it. And I think each preacher did a good job, actually a great job at their given topic.
Yeah, I have no doubt, but I'm gonna have to wait to hear for myself.
They should be coming up relatively soon on the New Testament Baptist Church Facebook.
Yeah, look them up on Facebook. They'll post them. They have, if you have sermon audio, look up the church name there too, because that's where they upload the audio for the sermon.
Oh, that's true. Maybe it might be up already, and they're just kind of posting it to their Facebook page. I don't know.
I checked their sermon audio account directly, and I hadn't seen them there yet. So I'm pretty sure whoever's responsible for posting that, when they get them onto the sermon audio, they'll post them to the Facebook page. But I'll link both to the show notes for this podcast.
I,
So just in case somebody doesn't have Facebook, you can still find them on sermon audio.
yes, that's true. Because some people don't have Facebook, and there's always multiple resources.
Right. And can you imagine someone not having Facebook today? Usually it might be a person who doesn't get online at all, but, still. Or post it just in case.
I mean, some people just don't want to be on Facebook for various reasons, so.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of things on Facebook. If it wasn't for the newsletter and networking, I probably would have quit Facebook a while ago. But, right now it's a tool that I need. It's useful, so.
Yeah.
But getting back to this third sermon and on the role of the man, what points stood out for you on this?
That's a good question. I just thought that it's kind of important to realize that me as a man has the responsibility of taking care of my family and just making sure of their spiritual, emotional, and physical needs. And there's one thing I'm not quite sure how he was spinning it, but they kind of talked a little bit about Proverbs 31 and the virtuous woman, but they were just getting in. This might have been Brother Titus's message. Problem with these two is that they can go hand in hand. But he was talking about, they were kind of talking about the woman's role and what is a virtuous woman. And a couple of weeks ago, our pastor, Brother Keller at Faith Missionary Baptist Church in Streamwood, Illinois, was saying that what he pointed out that this virtuous woman went and sold fine linens and some other things to support her family, but she was still able to keep her home in balance. And Brother Lafferty was talking about how his wife took a stay-at-home role even though she has her bachelor's of science in nursing, and she decided to take a stay-at-home wife role. And I'm not sure how I feel like they were pushing more towards like stay-at-home mothers not working.
Right. And there are a lot of Baptists of like faith who take a very strong stand against women working outside the home. And I do understand a lot of that comes from trying to combat the liberal culture that we live in. And, it is, I think especially if your husband has a very strict conviction on that the wife needs to yield and submit to his leadership and defer on that. And, I think some people talk about financially needing to work, but I think if a husband has said, I want you to stay at home, the Lord will bless and provide whatever finances you need if you're faithful and submit to that. And it is a case by case basis, and again, just like with gifts, and callings, there's specific callings I think God gives to individuals. And it's certainly something to be very cautious about and pray about before entering the workforce. Because even men, you have to pray and make sure that you're following the Lord's plan for your life, whether it's a specific career and the education you have to get for that career. And I think for women too, it's like whether you work or not, or stay at home. And some women, might be single and called to be single. And what are you going to do? Not work at all just because you're single? So it is a hard one to, I think, draw a line in the sand and say very strictly, no, women can never work in public at all or not. But like with Sister Lafferty, I think with her education and everything, I think that's important to note, because women, we don't believe in women not being educated at all or just being stupid or something like that. God's given us minds to use for a reason, and we need to exercise that. And if you are a stay-at-home mom, there's ways you can exercise that at home with your children, with teaching them, and teaching your kids to think, teaching your kids to read and pray, and still be under the headship of the father, the husband in the home. But yeah, I mean, I'm probably reiterating myself too much, but there are some preachers who take a very hard line on that. And no matter who you are, just pray about it, search the scriptures, and follow the Lord's leadership.
I just want to give a disclaimer that I am not trying to bash stay-at-home moms or wives. I completely respect those that do that. I am just saying that this is just something I've noticed.
Right, and I didn't take it as you saying that way, but we do have to be careful, because you never know what perspective somebody's going to be coming with, and they listen to some things and they might think, oh, well, you're too extreme this way or you're too extreme that way. And so we do have to be really cautious with how we say certain things. And also, it's not to argue with or disagree necessarily with the brother and his message, and what they said about the role of the woman or the role of the man in their messages, because these are messengers of the Lord, and they are prayerfully and studying the Word of God and presenting it. And so even among our kind of Baptists and people we fellowship with, though, there's some disagreement sometimes on certain things. And so we do have to be really careful about correcting preachers, because they are men of God, and just talk to your own pastor about it if you need to talk to somebody. If you have the opportunity to talk to a particular preacher that you question what they meant by something, go to that preacher himself and ask him what he meant if you have that opportunity.
That's another reason I like Facebook so much. A lot of preachers are on Facebook, and you can always message them or even get their phone number and call them.
Right, and that's really great. That's something I like about Facebook too, is I have a lot of preachers and preachers' wives on my friends list, and quite a few of them I haven't even met in person yet.
This isn't like a pro or con Facebook message or Facebook podcast, but I would agree. There's a couple of preachers from, what is it? Washington or Oklahoma or something that I'm friends with. I see on Facebook and I've never met them in person, but it's just great to have that fellowship with them.
Right. I have a preacher friend and his wife in Alabama that I've never met in person, but I've gotten to listen to his sermons online because their church has a website. And so Facebook just becomes a means of, hey, I've listened to your sermons. I go to your church webpage, so now you get to actually talk to the preacher himself, and that's really nice because then you're like, what do you mean by that? And you get to pick his brain. But yeah. Okay, so what was the fourth message on?
The fourth was Brother Ryan Austin. Some of you may have heard of Wyatt Austin, the baby that a lot of churches have been praying for. This was his father.
Right.
He talked about, the title was "Put No Wicked Thing Before Thine Eye."
I'm sorry, just a second. You were getting muffled. Can you repeat that?
The title of his message was "Put No Wicked Thing Before Thine Eye."
Oh, right. You told me about this one.
Yes. This one he was talking about was that it's a parent's responsibility to moderate and to be cautious of what children are viewing or what they're listening to. Like, a lot of things on the television are very sinful and promiscuous, like language and things that people should not see. And that it's a parent's responsibility to be careful of that and to make sure their child knows the dangers of viewing such things.
Right. And even the messages in our entertainment, witchcraft, I mean, has been in kids' cartoons forever. But I've noticed it becoming even more prevalent. I was just amazed one day. I was at a friend's house and they had the TV on. They didn't have little kids on, or they didn't have little kids in their home, but they just had the TV on, and it happened to be Saturday morning, and so this cartoon was playing. And it was one of those, it's supposed to be educational programs, and so the characters like talking to the audience and trying to get them to mimic what they're doing. And this show is about witchcraft, and so they're showing how to do a magic spell, and they're trying to get the viewer to copy them in the hand motions and how they move their body and copy what they're saying to cast the spell. And I'm like, wow, because I mean, yeah, they use witchcraft in cartoons when I was a kid, but it's like they take that and mix it with Dora the Explorer and, you know, what's supposed to be educational. Yeah. And it sounds casting spells. And that really shocked me when I saw that. And it probably shouldn't have. But kids shows these days, and, you know, the language, the promiscuity and things like that in the movies, definitely a big problem. And but also the messaging and the witchcraft is huge too.
Oh yeah. I think they also got onto like celebrities and how we shouldn't be fawning over celebrities, because as soon as they get in the limelight, something bad happens. Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt, Kim Kardashian, you name them, they're there.
No, this brings me to mind even of celebrities that call themselves Christians and they
Louisiana.
yeah. But you know, this big thing has popped up in the media lately about the Duggars. And they've presented themselves as Christian examples to people, and it's kind of nice, you know, as a homeschooler to see a homeschooling family on TV. That's
They're also
kinda neat.
fundamentalists.
Right. And and then they fall, and we have to be careful whether it's the Duggars or the people from Duck Dynasty or any other show that presents itself specifically as a Christian show, not to idolize them, because they are human beings and they are sinners and they're going to fall.
This was actually one of our
And
message on Wednesday at church, because we started talking about the Duggars and what they're going through, and they idolize them so much that they think that they can't. They find no fault with them, and then when something immediately happens, it's like, what happened?
right, and then people automatically get in the defense mode because this was their hero. This is somebody that they respect. But you know, even David, he was a man after God's own heart, and he sinned, and there was consequences, and there was no time limit on the consequences for his actions. He was still a saint. He still was saved and having faith to the promise of the coming of Jesus Christ. And he knew who his Redeemer was. But his sin caused consequences for generations that affected the whole kingdom of Israel because he was king, because he was somebody in authority. This had huge consequences. So there's no time limit on consequences. I think that's something worth keeping in mind during this news story, and more stuff is probably going to come out as time goes by.
Oh yeah. One thing Brother Keller was talking about was that we don't know if he was saved or not when all of these. What was he? This 14 when this all what he is saying that all happened. And
right,
well, now I don't know if TLC puts them in the best light or what, but it looks like that he's trying to live a good Christian life now.
right.
And it's like they see something in the past, and then they bring it forth to the future saying that, oh, he's still going to be like this, and we need to watch our children around him.
Right, and you don't know whether he's doing that or not. Certainly hope he's not. He's married. He has children of his own. But something that's come out is there's been men that his family have surrounded themselves with that have gotten caught and in trouble for sexual indiscretions. So he was exposed at a young age to some bad influences that paraded themselves around as Christians.
We need to watch who we look up to.
Right. And this is an issue that so tragically, no matter how bright your doctrine is or great your faith is, churches are not immune to these problems. And we need to learn and make sure we're prepared to protect our children and hopefully prevent these things from happening at all. But realize if it does happen, how to deal with it, find counseling, and not allow the victim to feel shamed because they didn't do something to deserve any abuse like that to happen to them. And it's really important that we know how to handle these situations biblically and legally, because if a crime happens, we're obligated to report that to the authorities and take care of that through that system. But also, very important to make sure that the victims are taken care of, as well as the perpetrator getting any counseling or help to make sure that this is like a one-time thing or whatever is necessary. If nothing else of this whole Duggars thing, it's something that we need to pray about and consider and make sure that we're taking care of one another the way we're supposed to. I've been reading a lot of articles, and a few of them by counselors and things on these issues, or I think one of them was written by somebody who had been a victim of sexual abuse within the church. And, we get on our high horse when we hear something happen in a Catholic church. But it could happen in a fundamentalist church. It can happen to an independent Baptist church. And we just need to be ready to deal with that the right way.
We also need to be discerning with the media, because they
Right.
like to embellish things and not like to tell the entire story.
Of course. The media will hype things and do things. And that gets back to, even the original point about parents being responsible to guard the media that their kids take in. We need to be careful on how we let the media shape our minds and make sure that we're renewing our minds and spirit in the word of the Lord. And not just filling it with junk.
Right.
Okay, are we on to
5? Yep.
the fifth sermon?
Fifth one is by Brother Chris Horn from West Milton Baptist Church in West Milton, Ohio. The message is called homeschooling, but it's more about religious education, because he was talking about whether you decide to enroll your child in public school, private school, or homeschool, we have to be careful about what these kids are being taught.
Right, because even no matter what your education, is, you're in your home, you're learning things from your parents, even if they're not meaning to teach you. And, or even just basic fundamentals of life, or attitudes, or vocabulary. I mean, how many parents get embarrassed because their kid says something and somebody's like, where'd you learn that from? Oh, daddy says it, or mom says that when she gets frustrated or whatever. I've heard so many cute, funny, but very embarrassing stories because kids pick up on things. And so, yeah, whether you're public schooled or not, you're learning things at home.
Yeah.
And we got to be mindful about what we're teaching spiritually, and as well as, good manners or language or anything else.
Children love, especially younger kids, learn by example. So whether you're literally saying it directly to your child, or even indirectly, they will pick up on those cues.
Oh, right. Especially emotions and attitude. Kids will pick up on
Right.
that. And that'll affect their moods and emotions a lot.
Yes.
I know my little brother, when he was little, he was very sensitive to any stress in the house. And he doesn't deal with it very well. When even as a baby, if mom was stressed, he was cranky. He didn't know what to do with that.
Yeah, some people or some children are more sensitive than others in that. So you still need to be careful of how you are in front of your children.
Right. And you know what? Even if you don't think your children is looking or watching, they'll find, they'll pick up on something.
Ooh, that's true.
And we have to be mindful of how, no matter what, God is watching and He's looking at our hearts. And, other people might not see our hearts, but God can. He knows our minds.
Sometimes that's a scary thought.
Very scary.
I mean, sometimes it's like, oh, good, somebody knows where has my hand. Somebody knows what I'm gonna do, and that they're guiding me or whatever. And then it's like, if we do something wrong, he knows it. It's like, ooh, embarrassment.
Oh, yeah. All right, we're almost out of time, so we're going to have to get through these last few.
Well, the last one this one's the last one. My brother Gene Duke of Olmsted Baptist Church in Olmsted, Kentucky. And he was preaching on stewardship.
Okay. Oh, right, because was this the one, the children aren't your own, they belong to God?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
He was saying that we were, how do I put it? He was saying that we are the Lord's, and that parents are just for this time, and that parents need to be examples to their children to glorify the Lord.
Right. Just like all of creation belongs to God, so each of us as individuals, we belong to God. And that means even your children. They're individuals. They're going to stand before a holy and righteous God. And as parents, you're the steward of that child, who's part of creation just as much as you are part of His creation.
That is right.
Well, that's a very interesting way to end the conference on that note. You said there was only 6 sermons? Okay. For some reason, I was thinking that there were a little more.
Yeah,
okay.
We didn't. We had one preacher in the morning, and then we broke, or no, 2 preachers in the morning, and then we broke for the afternoon. And then we came back at night and just had 1 preacher. So not like what Home Baptist Church did with their conference.
Right. Well, I knew they didn't have quite as many as Home Baptist, but yeah, because when Home Baptist, they would have 2 preachers for each session.
And then you were like all exhausted by the end of it.
Yes and no, physically. But spiritually, you get recharged quite a bit.
Oh.
But, no, you do need, time to process and take it in and pray and study and still have time to fellowship with everybody at the conference. So I think the long breaks are pretty nice.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of fellowship going on. I was able to talk with a lot of people I knew over Facebook and actually met them in person.
Yeah, that's always cool. I remember the first time I met people in person that I had met on or that originally knew about them because of Facebook was the first time I went to Bible camp. And the strange thing was I didn't even think about who was going to be there and who wasn't going to be there. I was asked by a friend to go with them, and I did. And the next thing I know, people are coming up to me going, "Hey, you're Joanna Works, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they would have to introduce themselves because I didn't recognize them because half these people use pictures of their children or something as their icon on Facebook. So, it's like, oh, okay, wow. And one in particular was Sister Leah King. She's a lady from Kentucky and one of the churches there, and from the Lexington area. And she's a really neat woman. Her and her husband have a child, but they've also taken in quite a few foster kids over the years. So it was really neat to get to talk to her in person. And there were some others. And of course, then you meet all kinds of new people that become your Facebook friends.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's really cool. And Sister Regina Duncan, who's now Regina Reynolds, she does our book reviews for Baptist for Liberty. And I met her through Bible camp. So, if it wasn't for that camp, I wouldn't have her to do the book reviews.
Lots of fellowshipping and networking too.
Oh yeah, it's great. Okay, well, looks like we're running out of time. Do you have a Bible verse for us to close out with?
I do.
Okay.
This Bible verse comes from Ezekiel chapter 3, or 33, I'm sorry. Ezekiel 33, verse 11. Say unto them, as I live, saith the Lord God, I have no pleasure in the death of the wicked, but that the wicked turn from his way and live. Turn ye from your evil ways. For why will ye die, O house of Israel? Ezekiel 33, verse 11.